With the release of the Swedish tech tree several months ago, as well as the introduction of the Soviet T-72B3, a new meta has emerged in top tier battles. The T-72 has almost become the most feared Soviet block tank. Well, what is the NATO equivalent? I'd suggest that accolade would go to the Strv 122. Essentially being an up-armoured Leopard 2A5, it takes an already combat-proven design and makes it even more dominant. Alright lads, today I'm going to be talking about the performance, weapons and playstyle of the Strv 122. Starting as always with the basics, this vehicle is a rank 7 battle rating 10.7 main battle tank located in the Swedish tech tree. Being a rank 7 tech tree vehicle, it will only be effective at researching other vehicles between the ranks of 6 and 7. To unlock this tank, you will have to grind out 390,000 research points before purchasing the tank for a cost of 1,020,000 silver lions. After this, you will then have to add the tank to your lineup for a cost of another 290,000 silver lions. You can then additionally purchase the Expert and Ace qualifications for the tank, costing 1,020,000 silver lions and 2,100 golden eagles respectively. At the current time of recording, this tank has the highest repair cost of any top tier vehicle, at 17,855 silver lions. While grinding out the footage for this video, I had to take out a mortgage, pick up a second job, and sell my soul to Gaijin. But hey, just another day at top tier. Going on to the rewards, and the vehicle has a base RP modifier of 2.32, which gives you an RP modifier of 232% with a free-to-play account and 464% with a premium account. Your base silver lion modifier is pretty high at 1.5, but with the exorbitant repair cost also being high, you can't really afford to take many risky plays in this vehicle. You can expect a 150% silver lion modifier with a free-to-play account and 225% with premium. So is the star of the Swedish tech tree worth the grind? Especially seeing as the rest of the Swedish tech tree is a little bit underwhelming, especially at lower tiers. If you'd like to know the answer to this question, as well as a little bit more about this tank, then stick around for the rest of the video. Okay, so starting as always with the engine and performance. And just like the Leopard 2A5, the Strv 122 is powered by an engine producing 1,500 horsepower. This engine power, combined with the vehicle's weight of 62.5 tons, gives it a power to weight ratio of 24 horsepower per ton. This is slightly lower than most NATO main battle tanks, but it is due to the additional army the tank is carrying, which we will cover shortly. Moving on to the transmission, and we can see that the 122 has a top speed of 68 km per hour and a respectable reverse speed of 31 km per hour. These top speeds, combined with your power to weight ratio, do give you pretty good mobility around the battlefield, but you do feel a little bit sluggish in comparison to your NATO contemporaries. Being a top tier NATO main battle tank, the Strv naturally has the ability to neutral steer, giving the 122 excellent mobility and manoeuvrability compared to the Soviet bloc main battle tanks. Overall, just like the Leopard 2A5, the mobility of this tank is not its main selling point. It has just enough mobility to get around the battlefield at a decent pace, but you certainly won't be beating any T-80Us to cap circles. Okay, moving on to armor and survivability. The first thing to mention is that the 122 has a crew of 4 men, and just like the 2A5, your driver, gunner and commander are all lined up, making it very easy for a penetrating round to one-shot you. However, with the 122, your frontal hull provides much more protection. This is due to the tank having additional composite screens covering the frontal hull of the tank, but more of that shortly. Also worth noting is the fact that the turret muzzle features blowout panels, allowing the ammunition store to be hit without it destroying the tank. However, you can only store 15 rounds of ammunition in here, so taking any more than 16 rounds into a battle will result in the excess ammunition being stored in the front of the hull next to the driver. Alright, so moving on to the arm performance itself, and to test this, we'll be using the freebie M42 Mango round as fired by the T-80U. Starting as always with the lower frontal plate, and we can see that the arm protection ranges from 180mm all the way up to 700mm of armour in certain places. Moving to the upper plate, and you'll notice that it consists of 2 steps. The lower, less angled plate actually gives you more penetration, ranging from 700 to 750mm of armour protection. The protection level of the larger, more sloped plate varies quite dramatically depending on the exact point of impact, ranging from 300mm to over 600mm, but as an average it offers around 550mm of armour protection. Moving up to the turret, and the cheeks are pretty much immune to all rounds in the game. As you can see, the turret provides over 900mm of armoured protection. Just like all other main battle tanks, the turret breach is a weak spot, providing only around 100mm of armoured protection. Just like the Leopard 2A5, when you are taking this tank on from the front, shooting the tank underneath the gun here, or just below the driver's vision port is the best way to kill or incapacitate this vehicle. Moving to the side of the vehicle, and protection decreases substantially, down to only around 22mm of armour on the hull. But if we move up to the turret, the protection at the front of the turret is actually pretty good at around 700mm. But as we move down the length of the turret, your protection decreases down to around 260mm at the crew compartment and only around 70mm at the ammunition bustle. And finally, the rear of the turret provides 45mm of armour and the rear of the hull provides just 21mm of armour. Overall, the armour of the Stridsvagn 122 is its greatest asset, and is probably one of the most well protected NATO main battle tanks in the game. When compared to the M1A2 and Challenger 2, which both have high levels of protection, the noticeable difference is that the Stridsvagn 122 has no real frontal weak spot, beside the common weak spot of all tanks, the gun breach. This armour level, combined with the pretty decent mobility, makes you incredibly flexible on the battlefield. Moving on to the weapons and ammunition, and as you can see the 122 is armed with a licensed production of the Rheinmetall 120mm L44 cannon. Being a modern vehicle, the gun is fully stabilised in both the vertical and horizontal planes, as well as having the NATO standard 20 degrees of gun elevation and a slightly below average 9 degrees of gun depression. You can carry 42 rounds in total, with 15 of those rounds being classed as first stage ammunition stored in the turret. As I mentioned, carrying any more than 15 rounds means ammunition is stored in the hull, making it very vulnerable to enemy attack. So taking a look at the reloading skill under the loader section, and we have a base reload speed of 7.8 seconds, and with an ace crew, that drops down to 6 seconds. This reload rate is around average for top tier. You do beat the Soviet 7.1 second autoloader, but some other NATO tanks have a 5-second reload. Moving on to the targeting skill under the gunner section, and we can see that you have a base turret rotation speed of 28 degrees per second, which rises to 4 degrees per second with an ace crew. Next we'll move on to the modifications, and I want to point out that this tank gets access to a laser rangefinder, first generation thermal imaging for the gunner, and third generation thermals for the commander's sight. The Stridsvagn 122 also has an excellent level of optical zoom, as well as a wide field of view in the gunner's sight. Both of these gun characteristics, combined with the thermal imaging, allow the 112 to be combat effective at all ranges. Moving on to the ammunition, and we have 3 rounds available, 1 stock and 2 unlockable. Luckily for you, your stock round is the DM23 APF SDS round, meaning you won't have to suffer with a stock heat FS grind in this tank. The round travels at 1640 meters per second and is capable of penetrating 410mm of flat armour. This is an excellent stock shell in my opinion. The next round you unlock is the M95 high explosive round. This is similar to the high explosive round found on many Soviet main battle tanks. It contains 3.54 kilograms of TNT filler and can penetrate 34mm of armour at any angle. And finally, your last unlockable round is the DM33 shell. It travels at the same muzzle velocity as the DM23 round, however it is capable of penetrating nearly 100mm more of flat armour, as well as having better angled penetration. Overall, the firepower of the Stridsvagn 122 is pretty good. While it doesn't offer you anything fancy, it gives you probably the most important thing in combat: consistent performance. With that overview finished, we'll now go on to some gameplay, followed by a conclusion. Alright, so welcome back to the fields of Normandy. We're going to go and try and cap A. It's a little bit risky. We are pushing pretty well on this flank though. Usually you'd meet heavier resistance by now, but I think the enemy team's gone, they're focusing C really. Top tip with this vehicle is use your commander's sight to scan for targets instead of the gunner's sight, just because it's a lot more high resolution. Popping smoke here just because I don't want to get shot from the spawn basically. I think that's is that a turret of a HSTVL? So we're going to try and get into some cover. A lot of people do hang out in these trees, so you want to use the cover you have really. It's not really a great map for being sneaky. A little bit scumbaggy here because there's not really much else to do. Got some Centauro Armour. Not quite sure he's in this game. He's a 9.0 I believe. Is that a Macarver? Well, I rounded shit all there and try and get his ammo rack. Got his cannon. Is there 2 of them? Is there 2? I'm just firing randomly now. Oh, there's a bloody helicopter. I see him. Okay, well there's 1. I'm very nervous about that helicopter. Oh, there we go. Somehow it hit my turret. We're going to have to repair that. My opinion has changed dramatically on helicopters. If you subscribed to my channel when I first started doing videos, and I was pretty much just doing helicopters, yeah, I was a twat. I'm pretty firmly in the anti-helicopter camp now. I think they have ruined top tier, basically. It's not really oh. Can we get a shot? Got his loader, which doesn't really do anything for us. Try and get the shot quick. Try and get that ammo. Oh, we got his crew. Don't matter, he's still dead. Doesn't really matter. Oh, see movement. But you can see how the resolution's a lot worse in the gunner sight. I'm going to take a shot. Well, that was lucky. I'm not going to... That was 90% luck, that. It's kind of scummy, but what else can you do? I am in a cap circle shooting it. Well, it's kind of spawn camping, but... Okay, so I think my teammates have got the northern spawn dealt with, so I'm going to push towards B and C. I don't think anyone's going to spawn at the northern spawn anymore, because like we're pretty much pushing their spawn, so there's not really much point in doing anything. I think that's a T80 or a T something. Oh, I missed. I mean, I don't like spawn camping, but I'm not going to pass up 3 kills out of honour. Is that a T80? Again, that was a pretty lucky shot. I was trying to go for his drive support, but I missed. But we still hit his ammo anyway, so... All's well that ends well, I suppose. Oh, is that a... Oh well. I think I managed to save my friendly there. I mean, we're getting pretty lucky. I'm not... You should have killed me there. I wasn't paying attention at all. Is that dead? I'm going to assume it's dead. I don't want to take a risk. Surely my Arietta would have got it. Yeah, it's dead. Better safe than sorry. Oh, B's being capped. He's on B. Well, B's a very, very open cap, so this is going to be equally as risky for me as it is for him. He's not behind the house, which is one of the most frequent things. So he's either going to be at the top behind the other house or in the bushes near the burning one. This is probably going to die here. So he's either going to be around this corner or at the top over there. Oh, Spidey. Is that a tank? Okay, well, again, very lucky. Probably should have died in that situation, but get the kill. Probably wasn't deserved kill. I think we were both trying to figure out whether we were actually enemies or not, but we now have trip cap. There's another helicopter there. So there's the Cobra, 2K. Oh, well, we got a crit. See, I really think the helicopter should just die if it gets hit by a saber round. I know it probably isn't realistic, but like, just give him a... That was literally like being shot with a 9mm. All that did. Is he even going to die? So he's been hit by a 120mm DM33 shell. And he just fucks off back to his base. Well, I think this game's almost over anyway. Well, it is over now. 6 kills, 2 caps. Not too bad. To conclude, the Strv 122 is probably the most powerful main battle tank NATO has to offer, and is definitely a worthy contender for the most powerful main battle tank in War Thunder. Put simply, the 122 is essentially a Leopard 2A5 with much better armour, with no real downside in performance, apart from a slightly lower power to weight ratio. While the 122 has no real downside in battle, it has one huge downside in the hangar, and that is the tank's ridiculously high repair cost of nearly 18,000 Silver Lions. I believe you need to score 3 kills for every death in this tank in order to break even after a battle, which only experienced players can consistently do. While the tank does have an issue with its repair cost, hopefully in the future, or by the time you've grinded out this tank, the repair cost may be lower. Apart from needing a mortgage to play this tank regularly, I have no real criticisms of the tank's performance. It is mobile, well armoured, and capable of killing anything it meets as long as you have good shot placement. Just like the Leopard 2A5, you don't have any other top tier main battle tanks to take as backup. You do have the Strv 121, essentially a copy of the Leopard 2A4, as well as several Strv light tanks. While this is a downside of the Swedish tech tree, it isn't really a fair critique of the Strv 122 itself. To finish up this video, I would say that this tank is well worth the grind. It will take you a while to get there, especially with Sweden not really having any effective low tier premiums, meaning the early grind is actually worse in my opinion, getting better as you advance up the Swedish tech tree. It's important to remember that this is just my opinion. What do you guys think about the Strv? Does it deserve its very high repair cost? Or should this tank be the first vehicle placed at battle rating 11.0? If you have any other questions, criticism, positive or negative, or would even like to request a review, please feel free to leave a comment below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If I did my job correctly, hopefully you should have learned something new about this vehicle. If you do enjoy these sort of videos, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing. But more importantly lads, I hope you had a great day, and thank you very much for watching.